Hey, friends, welcome to Small Talk, where we discuss how faith fits in the big picture. And if you've ever had a family fallout, a family feud, perhaps with your mother, your brother, or everyone, then you're in the right place. Stay tuned. Joined again by D. Casper. How are you, man?
I'm great.
Good to
to
see
you,
you.
Greg.
Likewise, likewise. Now, today's topic is one that you and I both have had experience with, and that is family fallouts. I mean, that's tough. I mean,
Yeah.
family, for some reason, they're the quickest to get under your skin. They're the easiest to offend and be offended by, and oftentimes they're the hardest to forgive.
And they're always around.
That's true too, unless you move across country.
That's true.
I mean, that's a scenario that's played
Right.
out many times. But that's exactly what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
and more so in the light of Christianity.
Yeah.
You know, whenever Jesus talks about forgiveness, oftentimes he uses the word brother. You know, that implies some intimacy there, some
Yeah.
closeness.
A pre-existing relationship.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and perhaps one that you can't get away from.
Yeah.
And I think as Christians, we're also called to be in the same position with each other. It's a pre-existing relationship
Right.
with another human, every human, that we can't get away from. But we're going to talk about it in the light of blood family, because that's kind of how we're approaching this, is blood family. So I'd like to talk about three different things with you. One is I want to look at it, you know, from a Christian perspective. I want to look at a family fallout, or there's just been like an argument, or there's been some you know, hostile words exchanged, and perhaps you're trying to figure out, how do I mend that? Or if I'm the offender, how do I go and make that right?
Yeah.
I also want to look at just there being maybe some unspoken tension and pain and anger between two parties, and how do you resolve that? You know, perhaps it's a parent that has wronged you, or perhaps it's an uncle or an aunt or a sibling that has done something that has really hurt, and you're trying to figure out, how do I get rid of this? Whether I'm the one who offended or I've been offended. And then thirdly, I do want to talk a little bit about, is there anyone who can just understand this? Does God understand a family fallout? So family feuds, man. You ever had an argument with a family member, and what's that been like?
Yeah. My situation was a little different. I think mine falls actually in the second category that
Okay.
you mentioned, of having pain that resulted in family interactions. So my mom had been divorced once whenever she met my dad.
Yeah.
I was conceived, and then they got married, and then I came right after that,
Okay.
in that order. So my mom looked like she had a watermelon hidden under her wedding dress.
Oh, how about
I was
that?
there.
You were there for the wedding.
I don't remember much. I was in my own little
I had
bubble.
front row seats, Mom.
Yeah,
I was there.
but I was there. And they eventually got divorced. Mom married again, and then again and again. And her situation was one of a lot of relational turnover, because there was emptiness she had from her own upbringing that she was looking to fill through relationships with men.
Right.
And mainly because she didn't understand that the love that she was missing, that family didn't give her or didn't show her, she could find in Jesus. And the family is the main means that God wants to use to teach us about his character and about his love for us. So the mom and the dad both bring components of the character of God that they show to the children. This was God's ordained means. That's why it's not good for man to be alone, because together in the covenant of marriage, you learn things about God you couldn't have learned otherwise.
Right.
So being deprived of that can leave the kids with unhealthy pictures of God.
And was that your experience?
I wrestled with that a little bit. My mom wrestled with it a lot. And I kind of wrestled with what she wrestled with, the consequences of her wrestling. I'll phrase it that way.
Okay, yeah.
So a lot of instability in the home. She didn't get custody. The guy she married after my dad beat her up really bad. And
do you remember witnessing any of this?
I didn't see it happen to her, but I saw her like the day or two afterwards.
Right.
So when my grandfather dropped me off at her house for a weekend visitation, she never got custody. So I just had visitations with her.
Right.
She's purple, she's swollen, she's blue. And as a 5-year-old kid, that really messes you up. My parents getting divorced was the first hard part, but then the second part was seeing this.
Right.
She said she fell down the stairs, but even as a kid, you know better. I didn't know what it was, but I just had this sense of fear that something was wrong. The guy went to prison and then so forth. But what happened was I dealt with a lot of insecurity, a lot of fear, had a lot of addictions that came into my life that I ran into immediately at that same time of my life to escape the pain I was feeling. And what I didn't know is that you can subconsciously be numbing pain without even knowing that you're feeling it.
Now, just without digging too deep, I just want to know a little bit more. What was the root of that pain? Was it the pain of um, she's lying to me? Was it the pain of why does she keep getting married? Am I not good
Right.
enough? Was it the like what was that pain stemming from? Or both or more?
Sure.
Or am I just
As
shooting
a
in the dark?
child, you don't know, but because it's just too much to process. But
Okay.
looking back, I think a big one was fear.
Fear
I
of
not being loved, not being accepted, but then just fear in general because it was a violent situation,
general
right? The
safety.
second time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't like roller coasters. I don't like scary situations because that's just from my
Trigger
upbringing.
the anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second, I think, is just not feeling loved and nurtured
Mm.
because the parent that does a lot of my love languages are quality time and physical touch.
Hmm.
The parent that's the best for that would be the mom.
Right.
But anytime mom would be affectionate with me, I always felt like mom was using me to feel normal
Mm.
and to cling to innocence because she had lost innocence
Yeah.
because of the things that she went through.
So it wasn't
Um,
it wasn't just selfless love.
right.
It was I'm going to love on you because I'm missing something.
Yes. And even as a kid, I saw that.
Yeah.
And mom, one of her drugs of choice was human sympathy.
Mm.
So I'd always have people come up to me and say, "Oh, how's your mom doing?"
Right.
I remember as a kid thinking, like, I don't want to respond about this and be, the pity party guy.
Right.
So
Right.
those types of things really messed with me, and I had a lot of battles I faced even into adulthood
Yeah.
because of the things I ran to numb that pain going on.
Wow.
And so after that, years later, I eventually found Jesus. I was converted by my dad,
Yeah.
and he had a conversion experience after 9/11. It woke him up that he needed Jesus,
Right.
and then he eventually showed me my need of Jesus. But then mom was kind of this just additional variable. What do we do about that? When do I tell her? What
And
do
you
I tell
still
her?
had this pain,
Right, I was
but
still kind of wrestling.
unspoken pain. Like even
Yeah.
I'm sure you interacted cordially with each other,
Yes.
but
And
unspoken pain just
yeah, there was, and I didn't fully understand what it was
Right.
until I was converted and God was convicting me on how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I spent time with her a lot. I'd stay at her house. I just didn't realize how harmful it was for me until much later, and it was post-conversion that I
Yeah.
actually recognized and could actually take inventory. I was oblivious
Right.
until just like a year and a half to 2 years ago.
And then you realize, whoa, I still have a lot
Yes.
of just emotional
Right.
scar tissue between
Right.
my mother and I. Let's pause there with your
Yeah.
story. And I think it's really fascinating. So you're coming from the perspective of pain between a family member.
Yeah.
Just maybe it's unspoken anger. That's an iPhone ringing. We can check that.
Yeah.
But maybe it's unspoken
Right.
anger. Maybe it's open anger that just
Yeah.
has just been treated like an elephant in the room.
Yeah.
But that's your perspective. Mine is a little different. Mine is with my brother.
Hmm.
My brother and I are about 5 years apart.
Okay.
And I guess I've always looked up to him when we were younger. You know, he was liked by everyone. He was athletic, and I'd always be like, "That's my big brother." People would call me a little version of him. Oh, there's a little one. But something happened. There was a traumatic experience in my family where my sister got in a car accident and she passed away. My brother's last interaction with my sister, though, was just an angry fallout. Just hostile words of hatred exchanged. And that was a late night argument. The next morning, they both go to school, only my sister doesn't come back.
Wow.
And so I think that really did something to him, and he just changed, man. He transformed. He just got so much anger in him that he had this outlet of drugs and womanizing, and that just sent him spiraling down this snowball of just debauchery, It even got to the point where my brother was getting very physical, very hostile, very, very aggressive with my parents. I remember sitting in the car and my brother would strike my mother and I'm like, someone do something, Here I am, much younger, much smaller. I remember him trying to fight my father and I'm thinking, man, what is going on here? So my anger was towards my brother, but it's also towards my parents and just how they kept allowing this to happen. I'm like, kick him out of the house. What are you doing? Get him out of here. So there, but focusing on the brother component, I think there was a lot of anger there.
Yeah.
In fact, there was so much anger. Just being transparent with you, I remember sitting in bed at night sometimes thinking to myself, I want to kill him. Just being totally honest. So that's where I was at one point. I was like, how do I get rid of him?
Yeah.
That was the anger I had in my brother. And similar to you, that never got dealt with. It just fostered. It just grew. It's just like this bacteria, this mold that just continued to grow in the dark while I carried on in my life. And And it wasn't until years later I joined the military, I moved away from the family, years had gone by, I'd gotten out of the military. And even during those times, we'd have family get-togethers and, I'd see my brother. And even just seeing him, hearing his name, I'd just be repulsed and just anger and just all the things, stuff would resurface. So I always knew it was kind of there. But it wasn't until I entered into a relationship with Jesus, similar to you, that I realized, well, there's a lot there that I need to deal with. So let's pick up on your story. So we're both in the same place. You've got an issue with your mother. Only yours is like just you've scarred me. You've hurt me. Right. I've got an issue with my brother. Mine is, dude, I hate you for what you've done to my family, what you've done to my parents, and how you've just been so destructive and the peace in this family environment. But we both have a similar crossroad experience.
Yes.
And that is, I met Jesus.
Yeah. And when I met Jesus, context changed, my heart and mind about situations.
Yeah.
When you find the sympathy that Jesus has for you in your brokenness, there's a sympathy that starts to grow in your own heart because you see past what people are doing and you see them for what they are, hurting people.
Hurting people.
And, there's the phrase, that hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And so I had learned to forgive Mom in my heart. I had gotten to that point. But the thing I wrestled with at this stage was how I felt it was done really at that stage. But some time went on and God convicted me. And this is a very important component here. We'll unpack this more later.
Okay.
But God made it abundantly clear through the conviction of the Holy Spirit that I needed to tell Mom that I forgave her.
Wow.
And
even though you had done it in your heart.
And then this was about, months. It was probably about a year and a half until I actually had that conversation with her.
Yeah.
After her 7th divorce and final divorce, she went to live with her parents, went to go visit her during a break when I was working at a school. And I shared with her that I was very careful in how I communicated and did a lot of prayer about it. What I basically did was tell her my story as opposed to you did and you this and you that. It was I.
This is my experience.
Yes, this is my
But you're not sharing it in a way that's like, I have been hurt by you. It's not like this is my experience and you're the cause of it. It's this is what I experienced.
Yeah, and here's what role you played. Like I did have to connect those dots, but I was careful.
Yeah.
And so I said, these are the things that I've wrestled with in my life.
Yeah.
And they're a direct correlation to me doing these things, to the exposures I had around you as a child. But I want you to know that I forgive you. We cried together and we prayed together. And in that moment, I gained a mom for the first time in my life. And I just want to close this thought briefly to then kind of recap that. So what she ended up doing as a result of being shown forgiveness that she felt she didn't deserve was she started writing letters to all the people she had hurt, ex-husbands, friends, family, to make reconciliation and to make things right. Wow. There was a multi-generational effect to that moment.
By your forgiveness, you had triggered this benevolence in her heart. You had opened the floodgates of just reconciliation.
Yeah.
Man, for those of you who are watching or whether you're listening on our podcast, it sounds like Dee and I have had similar scenarios of family fallout and have had a similar catalyst, a similar tipping point, and that's our relationship with Jesus. So if you are in the midst of a family fallout, or perhaps you haven't spoken to a sibling or a parent in years, I think the first point we're coming to is the reconciliation starts with you and I first getting our relationship with Jesus in order.
Yeah.
Because I can't show love or awaken love unless I first have the source of love, and that's God, right?
And the love that I showed my mom and that you showed your brother didn't come from us. It was a love that we received from God for them. Yeah. It was Jesus' spirit of surrender that we were able, and forgiveness that we were able to give to them. And I think that's why that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, my tipping moment was I was in the middle of morning devotions. It was about 5 a.m. and I'm reading through the Beatitudes, and I remember it was blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. And God took that verse that morning, Dee, and he just wrenched my heart through the Holy Spirit. And he's like, Greg, you want me to show you mercy for how you see and understand you have wronged me. But there's one who has wronged you that you refuse to show mercy to. And I just had this burden. It was like 5 a.m. And I just felt this heavy conviction, call him. And, part of me is like, dude, it's 5 a.m., but it's like, call him. And what's funny, Dee, he called me. How about that? He called me. My brother called me. And I remember he's like, Greg, what are you up to? And I was like, dude, just reading my Bible, man. But I was just thinking about you.
Yeah.
And I remember I just started crying. Similar to how you approach your mother, you didn't say, "This is what you've done to me. This is how you've wronged me." You said, "This is what I've experienced."
Right.
I had a "This is what I've experienced" moment with my brother, and I thought, and I shared with him, "This is what I have seen, how it has hurt me. This is what you have done, but I love you." And that's the only thing I could say. It wasn't, "I forgive you, you've done wrong." All I could say, it was so weird. All I could say out of someone that I've contemplated killing, and that it was that bad. I'm just being totally transparent. To someone I wanted to remove from the face of this planet, the only words I could say to him were, "I love you." That is a Jesus thing, man.
Yeah.
Total Jesus thing. And by sharing that love with him, by him communicating with someone who he knew had anger and hatred towards him, it really opened his mind to the possibilities of what God is capable of doing to the human heart.
Yes.
Wow.
It's a direct
My little brother,
correlation.
who I know hates me, just told me that he loves me and he wants to see me in heaven. Who is this God that he follows?
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely. And it wasn't yours.
It wasn't mine.
And he knew as much.
Absolutely.
My brother isn't capable of doing this. Something has changed.
That's right. So let's get practical with this. For those of you who are watching and you're thinking, okay, I understand that you too have found this opportunity to love, and Jesus has come into your hearts, and as a result of Jesus coming into your hearts, you're able to reach out with your family. There's a lot that actually happened there.
Right.
We're kind of sharing this brief overview.
Right.
One that I like to address is timing.
Yes.
Timing. Because oftentimes when we have a fallout with a family member, either it's out of obligation, out of guilt, or out of our own ego that we immediately want to resolve the fallout.
Right.
Hey, listen, I wronged you. I'm sorry. And they are not ready for that.
Right.
They're angry. They don't want to talk to you. You're thinking, what's wrong with you? I'm telling you that I'm sorry. It's like, so timing.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about timing. How important is timing when it comes to mending a broken relationship?
I think it's of the utmost importance. And I think the thing that allows us to see when that is to be paying attention to what God is doing.
Yeah.
And then you just join him on what he's doing, right?
Now, how do you put a pulse on that? What do you mean by that?
Well, you need to be paying attention to the person and looking for opportunities, and you need to be praying for opportunities. And when you see God opening that door and God convicts you to walk through it, you need to be willing to go at that time, because later may not be right and before certainly isn't. So when you see God orchestrating things and moving based upon them softening, your own heart being ready, because we have to go through some healing before we can do that too.
Right.
You have to be in tune with God to know, is it now, is it not? And even ask him, lay it before him. God, I feel like this is something that I have to do biblically, but is now the right time? And wait, ask God to confirm that you should go forward.
Now, I love the two words that you use, looking and praying, watching and praying, as it were, what Jesus encourages us to do. So I'm looking for an opportunity and I say, wow, my mother, my brother, my sibling, my cousin, whoever it is I have an issue with, they're going through a low point. So I see an opportunity, but I should also pray about it before I take it.
Yes.
Because God may say, yes, I see that you see this opportunity, but no, this isn't the purpose they're going through this for now.
And the only one who really knows whether that person is ready or not isn't going to be you or that person.
That's right.
It's God.
It's God. It's God. So we've got to communicate with God.
Yeah.
Lord, is this the right time? So timing is important when we're talking about practically resolving issues with family. What else would you say is important when it comes to resolving family feuds and fallouts?
The way in which you communicate matters. If everything is about what they did wrong, or you just sound pious, you did all this bad stuff, but I'm letting you know that I forgive you. If you come across in a way that sounds as though you're talking down to them or you're better than them, you're not going to be able to bridge. You're going to make the wall bigger, taller, wider, and stronger.
Wow.
The best thing for you to do is to take as much responsibility as you can and to ask the Spirit of Jesus for wisdom and for humility to communicate in a way that's going to be appropriate. And God knows what they need and how. And so for me, I told my story, but I didn't accuse my mom.
Right.
And then in a pious way, forgive her.
Right. So if there is a fallout, we're looking for timing. We're looking for God's conviction also at that time. So I see an opportunity, but I'm not going to take it until God says go.
Right.
All right. And then secondly, now you're saying it is
the spirit in which you have the dialogue.
The spirit in which you have the dialogue. Very important. Now, what if I'm still so angry with that person? What's my step there? We've kind of addressed it already, but I just want to lay it out bare and
I would say that we have to be honest with Jesus and to be willing to surrender our feelings, because forgiving someone, I want to make this clear, is not endorsing what they did to you.
Right, you're not
Forgiving
condoning
someone,
it.
no.
Yeah, yeah.
So forgiveness is not, it was okay.
Right.
Forgiveness is, because of the love of Jesus, we can come back together, right? We can have reconciliation.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that what that happened was right or what happened was right.
Right.
I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah.
So when because sometimes we're afraid to forgive because we feel that that's conceding moral ground. It's not.
Right.
We forgive because we first and foremost were forgiven by God.
That's
Matthew
right.
18
That's
says
right.
this.
Has nothing to do with who was right, who was
Right.
wrong. It's, I forgive you.
This is the principle on which the kingdom of heaven is built upon, other-centered love.
Yeah.
And the kingdom of heaven is a kingdom that's built upon unity, right? And other-centered love.
Yeah.
And so that would be one of my points.
It's interesting that you bring up the kingdom of heaven, because I think if anyone understands a family feud and a family fallout, it's Jesus.
Revelation 12, man. So it says that war broke out in heaven, and we view that as this like boxing gloves, lightsaber thing.
Right.
It's nothing of the sort. Jesus, the Father, had fellowship with Lucifer, right, in his unfallen nature, and the angels.
I mean, we're
that
talking
fell.
an undisclosed amount of time
Yes.
of camaraderie. It could be thousands of years, it could be millions of years, but whatever it was, God, Jesus, everyone was just in perfect communion together. They were family. They were closer than family that we can even comprehend. And yet there was this fallout.
I refer to it as a domestic dispute. It's the word cosmic conflict is used, and it's true. But I think to see the heart of God in this, and Jesus alludes to this in Luke chapter 10 when he says, when the disciples are boasting about casting down demons, Jesus says, don't brag about the fact that they aren't going.
Right.
Just be happy that you are. And he makes the point that I saw it happen,
right? And
I don't want to be reminded of that. And I'm not happy about their final condition.
Right.
I didn't want this.
I'm not happy about the fact that they are demons. I'm not happy about the fact that they're not going to be with me forever.
I didn't want this. And this happened in my backyard. There was an internal domestic dispute. And then you even see the behavior of Jesus towards people who were crucifying him. Jesus had misunderstandings with his family. In John 7, his brothers didn't believe in him and spoke unbelief in his experience. And yet if Jesus, in the midst of all of these things, is willing to forgive when he himself suffered.
Even while suffering.
Father,
forgive them for they know not what they do. That's crazy.
It's amazing. And what's promised to us, I believe through scripture, is that when God asks us to forgive, he's not asking you to do something you can't do. I believe that with every command of God is a power to fulfill the command. And that power comes from the cross of Christ. Because Jesus succeeded, he can give us power to succeed. So when we're forgiving, we're just imparting God's forgiveness to them.
Amen. He's already given us.
It's Christ's spirit of forgiveness. It's not ours.
That's right. So friends, if you've been watching or listening and you are in the midst of a family fallout, or perhaps you've been going through one for years, let's just get practical about it. First, what we're saying and what we've been, what's been our experience is work on your relationship with Jesus. It's impossible to show someone love if you first don't have that love. And by connecting with God, it allows you to lay down the ego. It allows you to lay down that calloused emotional scar and to pick up the cross of Jesus and say, Lord, give me the power, give me the strength, give me the humility to make this right. Secondly, we're basically saying it's got to be on God's timing. You can't force it, right?
Nope.
Because if I try to go for it in my wisdom of timing, I could possibly make the walls, you said, bigger, wider, and thicker. Right? So thirdly is also the spirit in which you approach. Do it in the spirit of humility. Take the low road. Let them take the high ground. This is what I've experienced. And I'm willing to forgive. I'm not saying that what you did was right. As you said, I'm not conceding the moral ground here.
But I don't want that to be a barrier between you and me any longer. I'm
willing to let it go. I'm willing to come back together despite the pain that's between us.
By God's strength and by his power. That's right.
And that is the only way they could do it, by God's strength and by his power. Friends, this is Small Talk, where, as always, we discuss how faith fits in the big picture. We pray this has been a blessing. Comment your experience below, or if you're listening on podcasts, join us at youtube.com/LittleLightStudios. We do look forward to spending time with you next time. God bless.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out Small Talk. If you ever want to see the behind the scenes, check out our Patreon page. We got a lot of cool videos on there.
And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.